If you have something good, why end it for something that's not gonna make you happy in the end? Hello, it's Matthew. I'm on a bench. How you doing? um, if not relationships, then what? That's kind of a topic or a phrase that I was just pondering on my walk to work today, and it hits very true to my life because I'm in a long distance relationship right now as I attend school, and afterwards, you know, I'm gonna graduate, and I feel like I have all these ambitions to like kind of keep going and uh, progress through like a career to some degree, but I don't even have. It's very muddy as to what that looks like, um, and it's kind of a frightening thing because it's like, okay, so what about my relationship? What about all my friends that I've made? Do I just leave everything behind and keep going for like some self fulfillment, or at least I feel like it would be? Or kind of is there a better way? Like, what is actually important in the world? And like, how are we valuing a lot of these things? Because at the end of the day, I'm like, uh, I'm very obsessed with like thinking very, very long term, even when I'm like become like 80 or whatever, and even hearing advice from people that have lived like a good life, I feel like a very, very common theme rings true. And that's kind of the idea of the importance of relationships. So I propose the question and statement: if not relationships, then what? I know for a fact, if not relationships, then you could be this very successful individual who achieved everything that they wanted to personally achieve in the world, but is kind of left a little bit empty because they have no one to share it with. And who sacrificed to become this idea of greatness. Whoa, there's a fluff ball. This idea of greatness that is not even well defined. Like, we have this thing, this idea of like what it means to be great, to be the best at something, to achieve what no one else has achieved, to fulfill your wildest dreams. But those dreams are very like, those types of dreams are very like, yeah, true, you have to sacrifice relationships to get there. But I guess the question is like, would you? Should you? You know, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the people that gave up their relationships and all these other things in life and sacrificed to achieve their what they deem to be great. Maybe that's to run the most successful business possible. Maybe that was to be the most elite athlete. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have a little bit of heartache with respect to the relationships that they had to leave behind um, along the way. Because at the end of the day, if not relationships, then like what are like what, you know? What you can be traveling the world and see all the amazing experiences and feel very maybe fulfilled from doing that, but what do you remember on a trip? You don't remember really the sights and scenes, and it sounds very cliche, but you really like remember, sharing moments with individuals and experiencing it all together, and maybe some friends that you met at various hostels or whatnot. Because at the end of the day, if not relationships, then what? What is life? Everyone is going to die. Your greatness cannot be appreciated from the grave, you know? So you'd have spent all this time fostering this life to be this great entity, and you don't get to really appreciate that at the end. But relationships kind of, I feel like, give forever. It's a fulfilling experience to be able to share and appreciate the world with others and your own accomplishments. And I have this, like, I'm huge into science and technology and whatever, and I would look at like the great physicists and like Isaac Newton, and I don't know, just the big, like, I don't know, Pascal. You have Joseph Fourier. You got now there's a bazillion that you can name. Not all those, those are just not necessarily physicists, but like mathematicians. But any name that's like in a textbook. And I've often thought that that is a fulfilled life. That is what I kind of want to aspire to achieve, to kind of be remembered through my legacy, if you will, and that would kind of fill this void that I feel with respect to I'm going to die, but I want to live forever. However, I think as I grow older, it starts to like dawn on me that it's maybe not necessarily like that. That I think a lot of those individuals that achieve those things probably forgone like a lot in their life. Probably forgone a lot of relationships and moments in their life that they could spend with others to really appreciate this absurd experience. And I don't know. I think you are still able to kind of, there's a fly. I feel like you're still able to have a sense of like endless living through your relationships with people, because you impact lives, and those lives that you impact others, and that continues down the lineage forever. So even the slightest impact that you have on someone else's journey of life will spread throughout everyone else that they also like impact. you know it doesn't end with one person, your relationships, but it starts with one and continues forever. But I think the reason why we can't, or it's more difficult to acknowledge for some people, is because it's not a tangible measure. I think we as humans really like to quantify our life in in like amounts of how well we're kind of doing, and a lot of the times that comes with the status of money or your material things. Maybe it's in the realm of just career, because that's quite tangible and that's also very tied to like monetary value, and or it's tied to just the stuff that you've achieved, maybe the awards, the achievements, the accolades that you've been bestowed. um, but we almost fail to kind of see what's right in front of us, and that it's like the relationships. Every single relationship has impacted you to be able to kind of walk into those moments and achieve. And if you're just ignoring that, are you actually going to be happy? If you're just ignoring your relationships that shaped you, who you are, and all these other goodies? I don't know. It's hard to articulate, I'm finding. But there's just immense value instead of looking upwards for what you can achieve, but you kind of look inwards at your own values and yourself, and outwards at others that are around you, and kind of start to appreciate what is already there. Because I don't know about you, but I don't really feel excited at the idea of having a bunch of friends that don't really know who I am, that are only my friend because I achieved something great, at the finish line or something. I'd want my buddies that stuck with me and kind of shaped me who I was. But if I'm not investing in those relationships, or not figuring out a way to kind of maybe fulfill my own journey, but in conjunction with my relationships, then if I'm not concerned about that, then you're not gonna have it forever. You're gonna waste your time chasing a world that you never really wanted. You just felt like you wanted. You're convinced yourself that you wanted because it was a very tangible measure. But relationships kind of, they're not they're tangible, but they're kind of like more on a spiritual level, you know? You can't really put a finger on it, but there are these pieces of your life that exist that kind of have no value. Like, you can't assign a value to it. It doesn't have no value. It has immense value, but you don't know what that is. And I think it's a lot, but we fail to kind of acknowledge it. So, if not relationships, then what? It's a big question. So I think for myself, instead of continuing on this track of constant self-fulfillment, if you will, to kind of turn inward and figure out a way to find various compromises in my life to simultaneously achieve some goals I have, because I think it is important to still have self-fulfillment, but also foster relationships in your life. Find a plan that actually can make it work, because if you have something good why end it for something that's not going to make you happy in the end? Why? Why ruin something great if you can? I don't know. So it's a complex topic, but I just think that relationships actually hold a lot more value in our world than a lot of people think. And especially in the social media climate of our world, relationships are very transactional, where it's kind of like I'm only around someone. I'm just thinking in like the context of like follower count. You're only like meeting a friend because they have lots of followers, and then it's like there's a status assigned to that. But or like feeling like you're connected to some distant friend because you see their pictures of what they've been up to, whereas you don't even call them, you don't talk to them, you don't actually have a meaningful conversation, but you still act like you're connected deeply to them. But what is that? Like, it's not even a relationship. That's just a, like, you're not connected to anyone. You have to call them, talk with them. Don't just, social media doesn't even count as connection in my mind. It's it's fake. You know, just sending memes to people, like, is that meaningful connection, relationships fostering? I don't know. Probably not. But these are just some thoughts that I was thinking about on the way to work today. And it's just very relevant to my own life because, well, I'm kind of living it right now in terms of, moving, having moved away and pondering some future ambitions and aspirations that could potentially move me away for much longer. It's a very big decision on how you can kind of balance relationships and your ambition. And it's a conversation that could go forever. It's very complex and nuanced. Uh, it's a very complex and nuanced topic. And I'll leave with this. Um, Greatness is nothing without sharing it with others. I truly think that because you can achieve, but if you never got to share in the achievement, what's the point? You'll be dead. You can't enjoy it. Maybe you think that it'll feel good to have it, I don't know, in the afterlife, but depending upon your beliefs, maybe you can't. Those are some thoughts for today. And now it's work time. Gonna work on my thesis some more. Peace and love. Matthew, signing out.